We're here in Tokyo, Japan for the SMPTE Standards Community Meetings. I'm joined by Rutger Nijland from Phillips. Thank you for joining us, Rutger.
No problem.
So why don't you start with describing your role at Phillips?
Within Philips, I am assigned as being an architect, and as an architect I help in developing HDR algorithms for the future, so getting the best HDR
high dynamic range.
High right? Dynamic range.
Okay, great.
Indeed, yeah.
And so why are you here at SMPTE? What's your role here?
Here at SMPTE, I listen towards what the community has to say about high dynamic range, how the community, in this case the SMPTE communities, is looking against high dynamic range and understanding what the needs are of the industry and how we can best serve those needs with our solutions.
Okay, so let's go into HDR for a second, because it's a pretty hot topic in terms of 4K, 8K. They say that temporal resolution and higher color gamuts are very important to the UHD image. So describe what HDR exactly is.
High dynamic range will give you the ability to portray the image more realistic on your screen at home, as if you were looking at through your window outside. So it gives you the ability to make very high speculars, so very realistic images combined with really deep blacks.
Right. So ideally, if high dynamic range is done correctly, and then there's an image of a sun, it should hurt your eyes to look at, right?
You will have to squeeze your eyes a bit, and then you really have the high dynamic range.
Okay, great. So I think I got that, but there's a problem here though, because even though we know theoretically what HDR should be, there's a problem to be solved here, right?
Yes.
And what is that?
The problem now is if you want to convey high dynamic range images on the current system, you will have too few bits. So you will get banding effects, artifacts which you don't want to see. So you have to come up with a better way of encoding the signal to get the image on the screen at home in the way you want to see it, artifact free.
So does it require a special decoding on the consumer end for the televisions to reproduce the high dynamic range, or is that done within the broadcast chain?
Both is possible, but I would say you have to do a different encoding and decoding. So you need to have a good understanding of how your eye works and where you need the resolution to go. So if you have a good encoding scheme, you will also need the opposite of the decoding scheme. And in that encoding and decoding, you need to have a good understanding of the way your eye works.
And part of the way the eye works is representing, I would say, not representing, but the idea that there's brightness in the world, and that's represented by a unit called nits, right?
Yes.
What is that? What are nits?
What we use is, in TV world, we use the word nits, but if you use the correct term for it, it's candela per square meter. So it's the intensity of light which you get out of your TV.
So ideally, a television that's fully calibrated for proper high dynamic range should be about how many nits, would you think?
So you see TVs nowadays, or displays nowadays, already available for 5,000 nits, which you can go up to 10,000 nits if you want to.
Does Philips still make televisions?
The television business at Philips is, we license the name of Philips, and we make sure that the quality of the TVs that are branded as Philips are of high quality.
Great. Okay. So obviously there's some standards work. You're involved in which committees exactly right now?
So the committees where I'm involved in are looking at the EOTF, So the
Electro-optical transfer
the
function.
electrical optical transfer function, or the color differencing, which is the encoding scheme you want to use for transmitting and or encoding and decoding high HDR images, and it's the metadata, the mastering monitor metadata.
So obviously, since you're being involved in the committee, there's some standards work that's being started. How will the standards help solve the problem?
The standards will solve the problem in aligning everybody to get to the same point, is that we have a high quality HDR image which we can provide for the consumers. So if we don't have the alignment, you will get a wide variety of usable standards, and then it will become a big mess. So you need to have a good alignment, and that starts with standardization.
Excellent. So I guess Phillips is a proponent with this work. What is Phillips' goal in terms of the standardization efforts?
The standardization efforts that we see now, we of course have done a lot of research in transmitting and encoding and decoding the HDR signal as good as possible, so delivering the highest quality of HDR experience for the customers, and we are looking for getting those algorithms available for the public by means of standardization.
Excellent. Okay, great. So you can find out more about SMPTE standards at smpt.org/standards. Thank you for joining us, Rutger.
Thank you.